Kris here, Green Sabre. It's Doom Telly time once again, and episode 84, possibly. Did I write it down? I did, 84. Excellent. Right, let's crack on. Right, I'm going back to my decade of metal. I know that these have been kind of like dispersed, fucking stupidly huge gaps between them all. But I'm nearly at the end of it all, but I'm determined to persist. I've got, including this one, there's 3 more of these Decade of Metal videos to come. So just very quickly, if you are just seeing this one for the first time, Metal Mickey, shout out Metal Mickey, ages ago, did his own kind of Decade of Metal throughout the 80s, like the most important years for him, 1980, 81, 82, right the way through, including 1989. He did 10 videos, and they all were basically a top 6 from that year. And a glaring omission, of course, because I cannot do a fucking short video. I'd like to have extended that format slightly by adding a few also rans here and there, but I stuck to pretty much the same formula: a top 6 and a glaring omission. I've just added a couple of sort of almost there also rans for those particular years. Now, I didn't do 1980 through to 89, but I took the idea and I thought, yeah, great. I'd started where my metal journey started. I first started listening to metal, you know, rock and metal in 1987 properly. It started with U2's The Joshua Tree. And very quickly, I started looking for more guitar-based stuff that just, as the years went by, got harder and heavier and more fucking extreme and so on and so forth. So yeah, I thought, right, 87 is going to be a good starting point for me. I could have done 86 because there's loads of albums that I love from them, but I didn't. I thought it made more sense for 87. So yeah, I'm doing the same thing, but I'm doing 11 videos in total. I'm doing 1987, 88, 89, right the way through, and including 1997. And we're at 1995 this time round. So before I get into it, of course, this is my Green Sabre and band channel, so let's go through band updates. This weekend coming, Green Sabre are due to have our first rehearsal of 2025, Jesus. So we'll be having our first rehearsal. And all for the upcoming gig, which is February the 8th at the Parish in Huddersfield. Green Sabre, Wolves in Winter, Iron Void, GODTHRYMM. Yes, I will be pulling double duty that weekend. So yeah, of course, all of this has meant that sadly I was really hoping, because I missed out on it last year, the Dead of Winter Festival up in Glasgow. I was really hoping to get to this year's, but alas, bands have got in the way of it. This is the only pitfall, kids, of not only on your pocket of having this many bands, but also your time. And because I'm pulling double duty at that gig, I've got to fit in a GODTHRYMM rehearsal and Green Sabre rehearsal, and we're not particularly near each other where we rehearse, so one weekend for one weekend for the other. It also gives me a chance to kind of zone out. Although I'm finding it relatively straightforward doing multiple bands, it's difficult to ping from one to the other over that same sort of space. We'll soon find out about this on February the 8th, of course, but yeah, I'm quite confident it'll be fine. So yeah, sadly, I'm going to be racing that weekend, so I can't get up. And Glasgow from Leeds is an absolute fucking pain in the ass, no matter what side you go up and across. It is a fucking nightmare getting up to Glasgow in any quick amount of time from this side at Pennines. So yeah, it's not happening, kids, I'm afraid. So anyway, yeah, Green Sabre, first rehearsal this coming weekend, or whenever you're fucking watching this. We're having our first rehearsal in January. CROWSBLOOD, back at it. We should have had a couple of rehearsals, I imagine, by now, but the weather, you might be sitting there from various parts of the UK or wherever thinking, what? Honestly, the snow and ice in the West Yorkshire region has been fucking horrendous. There's still a load of snow and ice out there, and it's treacherous at the moment. But anyway, the roads are clear, so back at it tonight with CROWSBLOOD. GODTHRYMM met up with the gang over the weekend just gone, and yeah, great. Planning in earnest now for the next album. And it was great, yeah, to go through like, loads of ideas that are coming together. And yeah, I think we're almost there to start sort of rehearsing it properly in earnest for what's going to be their next album and the third part of the trilogy that is Reflections, Distortions, and this next one. So watch this space. Yeah, we were hoping to rehearse actually, there's because of course with the upcoming gig and so on, February the 8th, Parish, Huddersfield, Saturday. Get yourself there. £10 a ticket. Tickets are live. If I can, I might try and sort of link to the ticket link on the Facebook events page. But anyway, but yeah, we weren't able to make it to our rehearsal space this weekend because they were double booked, so we couldn't get in. So next weekend. So yeah, that's the band updates. Right, 5 minutes down. Let's crack on with this fucking video now. But just before I get on to it, my last video that has had a decent amount of watches, the Metal Tag 2025. Great idea. It's always been a great idea, and I love doing it. Video seems to have been pretty well received, apart from by one person. I had one dislike on it. It's a metal tag of my opinion on stuff. I mean, they're probably not watching this, but if you are watching this, you fucking mong. Like, why would you dislike a video of my opinion on stuff? I mean, what the fuck is wrong with people? But anyway, I'm not gonna take it to heart. I'm not gonna let it affect my performance, kids. On these videos. But yeah, I've had one dislike on my metal tag, so I don't know if any of you other guys have had any. Probably not. It was probably just me talking so much. So if it is the case, then you know that my videos are too long. Disliking it is just the kind of fucking thing that's going to make me do 3-hour fucking videos, kids. So just watch your tone. But anyway, yeah, I've enjoyed watching those metal tag videos as well. Death Metal Dylan's just put one up that was great. Clowny Milder, that was great. Johnny Mac, of course. Marty, The Beast. There's been some great vids on this, so yeah, it's great. Right, anyway, back to my video. 1995, a year in metal, and as I've alluded to on sort of previous ones, extreme metal was beginning to nosedive for me at this point. Now, I have to caveat that by sort of saying back in 1995, I'd been living in Leeds for a bit, and I'd moved back over to Morecambe for a bit. And I was between jobs. If any of you are old enough to remember like I am, that was a balmy summer, 95. It was just like great summers, sunny days, just back to back to back. It was relentless. It was fabulous. What a summer. And it was that summer really that I really honed my fucking smoking gear craft, and yeah, just where. So I seem to remember musically, I was getting into a lot of the more. I was getting back into like 60s psychedelic stuff and all that kind of thing. Yeah, it was all very much drug related and all that kind of thing. But I think because metal was by and large, apart from the odd ones that you're going to see soon, that was still exciting me. And again, caveat, not all of these excited me at the time. It was a bit later that I got to some of these, I think. Hang on. Yes. But yeah, for the large part, so there was still a bit of metal, but I was getting into a lot more, like I say, psychedelic, the Pink Floyd stuff. I dived into a lot of Pink Floyd in 1995, back into the more psychedelic era of the Beatles stuff. There'll be a lot of you cringing watching this, but yeah, a lot of that stuff I was delving into stuff away from metal in 1995, so that might have affected and might also mean that there are a couple of albums that you'd be thinking, that was a classic, why have you not mentioned that? Because I'd moved away from predominantly listening to metal at the time. So yeah, so without further ado, let's crack on. So 1995, like I say, it felt like it was on the wane, but there were still some classics. My number 6 from that year is this, Trouble's Plastic Green Head. I still think this album stands up to this day. It's magnificent. It's not Trouble at their do me best. No, they're more of a hard rock heavy metal band at this point, but it's a kind of there's almost proggy elements to some of the sort of songwriting, and there's a lot more groove to their riffs at this point. It's a lot more of that Sabbath groove influence. But there's some fucking gems on here. The title track, Plastic Green Head. The Eye, that's one of my favourite Trouble tracks of all time. It's got such a crunching, groovy riff, like I say, that sort of leads it through, and it's a belter. Flowers, Pauper Song, that's a cover that I really, really like. Was that the Monkees or someone that did? Anyway, Opium Eat, Hear the Earth, what is it? Another Day, Requiem Below Me, Long Shadows Fall. Their cover of Tomorrow Never Knows, that is a Beatles classic, when they just started getting really interesting. It's the last track on the Beatles album Revolver, and I love the Revolver version, but I particularly love this heavy, down-tuned fucking version of it that they do on here. And it's magnificent. I still love this album. Now, this is one of the Hammerheart reissues that came out a few years back. Did I go for green vinyl or purple vinyl on this, I think? Oh, yeah, I went for the purple there. Reissue. I think they reissued it in a couple of colours, but I seem to recall the original vinyl of this that goes for some money, like most of these fucking things do. I think the original was on a purple vinyl pressing. I think it was more transparent than that is, though. But anyway, so I thought, right, I'll go for a purple. But yeah, my number 6 for 1995, because I loved it then, and I still love it now. Great album by Trouble. Have they done any bad albums? Probably not. Okay, my number 5. And this was an album that, as I mentioned before, at the time, didn't really come onto my radar, because I'd just kind of, like I say, I got tired of a lot of that scene and stuff. And weirdly, this album missed me. It wasn't until like 97, 98 that I came back to this band and realised, fuck, this is great. But it is this, Morbid Angel's 4th, and could be argued last consistently great album of theirs. And one of my favourites. I fucking love this. Domination. It's great. It's a bit slower. There's a more sort of industrial feel to it in places as well. Particularly the track, is it Hate Work? Yeah, the last one. That I love. But yeah, a very industrial vibe to it as such. Still Dave Vincent grunting his way through this. But yeah, I think this is a fabulous record and a worthy top 5 for me. But like I say, at the time in 95, didn't get on my radar. I was too far out of it, man, to appreciate this at the time. But like I say, feels like 97, 98, this got to me eventually. So yeah, my number 5, Domination, Morbid Angel. My number 4, and I found it really difficult to put these in any obvious or definitive order, I should say, from this point onwards, because this could easily have been my album of the year. My Dying Bride's The Angel and the Dark River. There's some absolute gems on here. Now, this is the album that followed their finest hour for me, Turn Loose the Swans. And it's different in its approach for chunks of it, for not in other chunks, but there are so many great songs on here. You've got the Sexuality of Bereavement firing off at the end of it, cracking tune. Shameful Heaven's a good one. Two Winters Only is a cracker. A Seat of Suffering is a cracker. Darkest Skies is great. It is particularly, though, the opening track and the entirety of side A on this, The Cry of Mankind, that goes off at a very ambient tangent at the end of the song. But the main bulk of it is just, it's a hypnotic riff, and it's one of My Dying Bride's finest hours for me. That harmony, that the poor rhythm guitarist of My Dying Bride essentially has to play for the fucking entirety, barring one little break for a harmony run. They play that for near 7 minutes, undisturbed, when they play it live, of course. And it's one of them where I imagine if you trip up, it's fucking difficult to get back into the timing of it. So, but, oh, yeah, anyway, that's just a bit of guitarist technicality for you. But I fucking love this record. I love My Dying Bride. But this is right up there with one of their best. I did a Bride ranking, and I feel like this was top 5, definitely. It's weird. My top 8 of Bride can have a bit of wriggle room, quite honestly. Apart from the number 1 spot that, well, is unrivaled. But, yeah, this is right up there. And a cracking release, yet again, from My Dying Bride. The Angel and the Dark River. That's a reissue, by the way, black vinyl. Okay, my top 3 now. And number 3, could have been number 1 again, is this. Death's Symbolic. This is just a magnificent record, and could quite easily be viewed as Death's finest hour. Were it not for one or two tracks that might be considered filler, just a bit, and that is being harsh. It really is. But this is the white vinyl reissue of it that I may have mentioned on previous videos. There it is. Look at that little beauty. Yeah, I may have mentioned on previous videos. I managed to pick up during the lockdown when I couldn't get out to gigs and stuff like that. So I was spending an inordinate amount of money on reissues and various swirly vinyl things and stuff like that. And it was it Revolver magazine online or mentioned there's like, we found some of these in the, I forget what it was, we found some of these in the warehouse, so there's some white vinyl Symbolic reissue. Is it like the 2010 repress or something? 2014, sorry, reissue. On white vinyl, there's some left, and it was at like a bargain price of 20 quid or 25 quid. And it was going for more than that already on Discogs. I thought, I fucking have to have that. Raced onto it, got it ordered and bought. I know why it appeared to be the bargain price of 20 or 25 quid, because as soon as postage went on top of it, that was the fucking same again, it turned into nearly 50 quid to get it to me. Which, when you look at it on Discogs, is still a bit of a bargain, quite honestly. But yeah, Symbolic by Death. It's got some majestic tracks on there. Some of Gene Hoglan's drumming, his finest hour drumming-wise. The title track, Symbolic, is fucking fabulous. Perennial Quest is great. Misanthrope's one of my favourites on here. Crystal Mountain, of course. I would just say possibly tracks like Sacred Serenity and Without Judgment, or is it 1,000 Dies? It just dips slightly in quality compared to the rest of it, like Zero Tolerance, Empty Words, and so on. It is a magnificent record, and I kind of return to form, even though Individual Thought Patterns isn't a bad record. It's a peak in between Individual Thought Patterns and The Sound of Perseverance, both of which are significantly not as good as this record for me. But a worthy number 3 for 1995, Symbolic Death. A number 2, and again, this could have been anywhere in the top 6, quite frankly, at points, but I am having a bit of a dissection binge at the moment and remembering just how good their albums are, and in particular Rain Chaos. I've been listening to Rain Chaos pretty much consistently for about 3 weeks now, reminding myself just how great Beyond the Horizon, what else is fucking on there? Beyond the Horizon, Starless Eons, is it? Maha Kali, so many fucking great tracks, but I'm not talking about Rain Chaos. I'm talking about 1995's Storm of the Light's Bane, which for years and years was comfortably my favourite Dissection album. And then, I say recently, over the last 5 years or so, I've decided that Symbolic might be my favourite Dissection album, and was right up to a point, like I say, that I've been binging Rain Chaos, and I fucking love that now. I won't have a bad word said about it. Yeah, there's no black metal left in it. You could argue that there wasn't a massive amount of black metal on Symbolic. There's more black metal influence on this, but it's still melodic. And this is just a magnificent record. Now, another one that at the time passed me by. Like I say, 1995, I had dipped out of metal, really, and started listening to psychedelic 70s and 60s stuff. Again, this might have been 96, 97 when I started diving back into extreme metal, and a mate of mine, I forget who, had been like... I can't remember. I think the conversation had gotten to like Entombed or Dismember Swedish death metal, and someone had just sort of matter-of-factly said, well, you know, the best band out of Sweden was Dissection. Like, who? Entirely missed it. They gave me a tape of this album. So this was the first Dissection I heard. Like I say, it might be 96, 97, around that neck of the woods. It was after this had come out. And I dived into it. I was like, fuck, that's magnificent. Yeah, because at that point as well, I'd already got my appreciation of Emperor and that kind of thing. So this ticked all the boxes, and I dived right into it. And it wasn't until a bit later on that I thought I need to dive into rest of this band's catalogue, which at that point was only the Symbolic, and a couple of live bits here and there, I think. But yeah, this is a magnificent record. All killer, no filler. Starts off at 1,000,000 miles an hour and does not relent. And John Nordvade, however you pronounce his name, what a guitarist. But yeah, absolutely magnificent record. That is all I can say about that. Again, I would love this on vinyl, but like I say, I would have to sell various body parts and the child on eBay, I suspect, in order for me to afford any kind of vinyl press of that album, which is a shame, because Dissection would look great in my collection. Please take pity on me, kids. Right, so that's my number 2 for 95. My number 1, few of you will roll your eyes at this, but I love this band. I've explained it a lot, so I won't go into a massive amount of detail, but yeah, I love Faith No More. I still do. I think they're fucking fantastic. They just tick all the boxes for me. It's such an eclectic sound. I love that key atmosphere that they get. And I just think they sort of... The Real Thing, Angel Dust, and King for a Day are them in their absolute pomp. And at varying different levels. They all sound incredibly different as albums. But this... Yeah, I thought about it. I thought, does it deserve to be number 1? It fucking does, yeah. It's great. There are so many good songs on here. The opener, Get Out, Ricochet, Evidence, Gentle Art of Making Enemies, Star AD. I'm just reading the track listing, basically, because the more I go through it, they're all great. They are. The track King for a Day, magnificent. What a Day, Last to Know, Just a Man with that gospel kind of ending to it. Fantastic, worthy number 1 for 1995. I will not be argued with on that one. So save your breath. So that was my 1995 top 6. I will very quickly go through some honourable mentions. Firstly, the ones that I've got. Autopsies, shit fun. What an album cover. This will probably get a fucking strike on YouTube for showing that. But yeah, not their finest hour. Still great though, because Autopsy don't do shit records. If you'll pardon the pun. But yeah, this is really, really decent. But the last album they did before they took quite a long hiatus, and you can kind of hear that on here. If you watch the documentary, all is not particularly well in the Autopsy camp at this point, and I think they've sort of had enough. And I just feel you can sort of hear that in places. And also, Kris Reifert had that, was it Abscess, side project going at the time that was his kind of death metal tribute to G.G. Allen, I think. But it's got more of an Abscess vibe to it, is the point that I'm getting to. So a worthy mention, but not Autopsy's finest hour, but still a decent record. Still a decent record. And yeah, he's done some fucking awful garbage since. But I love this. The first 2 White Zombie records are kind of seamless, really, for me. I love the kind of groovy psychedelic metal vibe of the first album, but the heaviness gets ramped up in spades on this one. And yes, there is an ever so slight new metal approach to stuff in there, but there's enough of an industrial standalone White Zombie vibe to it to make this still a pretty unforgettable record, and great at that. Some gems on here. And a worthy mention, wasn't quite gonna threaten me top, and if you'd asked me in 95, that had top 6 written all over it. But now doesn't really threaten my top 6, but honourable mention. Another one, honourable mention, and I love this record, and a lot of people say it's comfortably Bungle's shittest record. I'd still put this above the most recent one that was just a reworking of the demos. I still think there's more quality Bungle on here than there is on the Raging Wrath of the Easter Bunny or whatever it is. And there's some genuine standout monsters on this album. I love, for instance, what's the opener? Everyone I Went to High School With Is Dead, That's Alright. It's Chemical Marriage, track 2, that I really, really like. Carrying Stress in the Jaw, Desert Search for the Techno Allah. What's the other one? The Benz is a great little sort of, and Merry Go Bye Bye that it finishes on. There's some fucking gems on it, and a worthy mention, Mr. Bungle's second album, Disco Volante. Other worthy mentions I will discuss are Ulver, Bergtop, cracking album, not quite top 6. At the Gates, Slaughter of the Soul, that will be in a lot of people's top 6. Not quite mine, but almost nearly. But again, it's going to be an image inserted because I don't have a physical of this anywhere. And I honestly don't recall ever owning a physical, a CD of it. But I mean, I likely did, but I've got a physical of this one somewhere, but can't find it. Fear Factory, Demanufacture, cracking industrial metal-y thing. Alice in Chains, self-titled one, decent again for some people. Their Finest Hour, Dirt's Their Finest Hour comfortably, but this is all right. Monster Magnet, I can't remember the name of the fucking album, but worthy mention. Electric Wizard's debut, fairly positive I've got this on CD somewhere, but can't find it. Anathema, I have got this definitely on CD somewhere, but can't find it. The Silent Enigma, their last sort of properly metal album, I would say, before they went off on that. A still enjoyable ride elsewhere, but yeah, it was after this that the move came. Motorhead, Sacrifice, decent Motorhead record, honourable mention. There's probably loads of others that I've forgotten, but that's what I'll stick with for now. So, my glaring omissions, and there are two. I won't go into too much detail on them because I feel like I've hated on them on various videos over the while. But there are two albums that I've considered glaring omissions because, for two reasons. Because I should love them, because I love the bands, but I just cannot love these records. I don't know what it is about them, but I can't love them. The first one, and I've mentioned this a few times of me disliking it, Paradise Lost's Draconian Times. I just don't like it, and I can't. I tried to get back into it when was the 25th anniversary recently, when it was repressed on various expensive bits of vinyl, and I thought, let me re-listen to it. Nah, I don't like it. What was the lead single off of it? Was it The Last Time? I flat out hated that at the time, and I dislike it immensely now. It seems so contrived and pop orientated compared to what they are. I must add, it is not a pop record, but compared to what they had done, and I was at the time was sort of gothic was everything to me when it came out. Shades of God was everything to me when it come out. Lost Paradise, even Icon to a point, but you could hear there was still some quality in Icon, but you could hear the move away from the classic era, and it was a classic era that I love. And Draconian moved even fucking further away, and I've tried, I don't like it. It's too commercial sounding. Like I say, that lead track, Hearts Beating, it all just felt as if, hey, we need to write a hook, we need to write a chant for the crowd, where I'll sing one bit and you sing the other. It all just felt too contrived for me. I've tried to like it, I can't. So Draconian Times, Paradise Lost is my first glaring omission. My second, because I can't separate the two, is this image inserted, Cathedral's Carnival Bazaar. I think this may be more so as a glaring omission because it was so disappointing when I heard it. Now again, with these albums, maybe it was because I was moving away from listening to a lot of metal at the time and I'd got into more soundscapey, far out, trippy sort of stuff and was going through that period of my musical journey. So maybe that had some influence on it, but I just felt like this was such a disappointment from what had gone previously. And all the harmonies are gone as well. Now, I could be wrong here, and it might be urban legend, but I seem to remember seeing something somewhere. Was it a documentary or a piece about how Tony Iommi guests on this album? And again, I don't want to do him a disservice. If this is wrong information, then apologies. But I remember reading or hearing that Tony Iommi had said to him, you don't need the harmonies, man. It's just about the riff. It's about the heaviness of that riff. So based on Iommi's advice, they ditched the harmonies. And I can hear where he's coming from a Sabbath perspective. But for me, that was wholly bad advice from a Cathedral perspective, because that's what made them great. Those doomy harmonies that are all over Forest, which is comfortably their finest hour. All over the Soul Sacrifice EP to a point. All over the In Memoriam demo to a point. Bits and pieces on the Ethereal Mirror to a point. Bits and pieces on the Static Magic EP to a point. Gone off of Carnival Bazaar. The Carnival Bazaar. And I just don't like it. I feel like there's nothing memorable on it. There is as well, and again, no slight on Lee Dorian, but he takes his vocals to a place where I don't think vocally he can go. And it all starts getting a bit... I just don't feel his voice suits what he was trying to do on that album and where Cathedral went since. I thought his voice was better suited for the Forest and at a push Soul Sacrifice era. After that, I think his voice went to just quite frankly odd directions, and stuff where I think it took the seriousness away from the band, and I know that might have been a conscious effort, but yeah, anyway, I'm waffling. But that is why I couldn't separate them two. They're both glaring omissions from that year for me. So yeah, right, enough of that. Half an hour, let's wrap it up. Thank you for watching, thanks for liking, thanks for subscribing. I've only had I've had a couple of likes gone. Maybe that was one of them that subscribers that disliked my video. So I went down to 257 subscribers. I'm back up to 258. But yeah, it's all good, kids. But yeah, tell your friends, let's get some more on there. So I can make a pig's ear of another competition. It'll be ages at this rate. But yeah, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll be back next week with a video of some description. Hopefully 96, because I could do with getting these out of the way, quite frankly. But until then, toodle pip.